Good morning, everybody. What a result. What a time to be alive. I'm going to pull the pants back, right, Geo? Whenever we've done these videos, I always, after the match, I'll open up a Word document and I just type out a couple of like bullet point things. Just so I can remember them for today, for when we talk. I might put James Ward-Prowse further forward, Paqueta up front, something like that. I got nothing today because last night we won and I was just like, and then didn't even begin to think about it, and I'm still completely in that mode. I feel like I don't need to remember anything. I feel like I'm still reliving. I feel like Arsenal is still wave after wave coming at me, and Angelo Ogbonna is standing next to me, stopping everything. It's just what a result, Gio. What an absolutely beautiful result.
Yeah, I'm still really happy. The league table looks pretty today, doesn't it? What a beautiful league table that is this morning. I think
Yep.
to be honest, all season I've had hope we could finish in a European spot, teams win cups, etc. But my hope is getting greater and greater. And after last night, now we're happy through the season. Charlie, we've got the record points for happy through the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's beginning to turn into expectation, which is a dangerous thing.
Sure.
But that's how good we've been playing recently. We are like in serious form. Our blips have been Fulham when we've had that illness, Liverpool when he rotated the side. Am I over that? Not yet, but I'll get over it. But when you look at the league table, it's hard not to be excited, isn't it? I think it's really difficult not to look at that table and think, do you know what? We can finish top 8 this season. It's hard. You've got to really persuade yourself for whatever reason you're not going to go on and do it. And I'm not trying to, but if I was, I would struggle to make a convincing case as to why we will not finish in the top 8 this season.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I don't have the problem mainly just because I'm such a low expectation person in the first place, like in general. But I do think you're 100% correct. I think in general, I feel like the way I've taken it, when I look at the table, when I was doing the thumbnail last night, and I looked at the table and I saw how where we were, how close we are to the likes of City and all of that, how the teams that everyone rant and rave about, such as Newcastle, how we're flying ahead of them. The thing I've really taken away from it is actually just how strong this opening half of the season has been. And I think is it officially the most the
Yeah, I
biggest
don't know
we've
if
ever
it's
done?
just Premier League era. I don't know if it's forever, just Premier League era. Sometimes it can be just it's the Premier League one. I've got it here. So at the minute we're on 33 points. When we finished sixth under Moyes back in 2021, we're on 32 points. At this time in 2014, Allardyce had 31 points. When we finished seventh, we had 31 points. Under Redknapp, we had 29 points back in 1998, which would be the 99 season when it finished. So it's the Premier League era, which is, I guess, fair because obviously back then you played a different amount of games, etc., etc. So it's hard to sort of compare apples with apples if you're going to do it forever. But in the Premier League era, this is the most points we've ever had after 19 games.
And I think that's the thing for me is just going, do you know what? I remember during the Upton Park season, one of the big things we were talking about is actually, as well as that season went, there were times, especially in the first half of that season, where we weren't playing very well. There were times we were playing pretty crap, but still getting wins. Mainly because Bilic was an absolute madman and would just continue throwing strikers at the problem until it solved it. You want to talk about David Moyes, right? You want to talk about the man who's the exact opposite of David Moyes, right? You still might completely disagree with the idea of what's going on with subs. David Moyes, you might get Danny Ings if you're lucky in a like-for-like switch. Bilic was like, who else have we got? Yelovich, he's coming on, just lobbing everything at the problem. And I remember we had lots of conversations as a fan base, as a community, about the idea of, well, the good teams, they win even when they're bad. Even when they're playing crap, they're bad. And I think when you look at our October to November, which is when we weren't playing very well, I think October went very poorly. We were getting lots of losses in that. November, we had this beautiful period where we were playing crap for the majority of the time. We weren't in form, we were struggling, everything else, and yet we were still just battling out these wins. And a lot of late winners as well. That's another thing that sort of keeps playing on the back of my mind, is we just consistently pulled out these last minute winners, these late goals to get the win. And that period of showing absolute just 100% battling for every point, even when you're not playing well, battling for every point up until the very death of the match. Has put us in such an incredibly strong position going into the second half of the season. And I think yesterday was another great example of it. It might not have been that last minute winner battling, but as Wassim says here, players played out of their skins and defended like lions. I think that was one of the best battling displays I've ever seen us put on.
Yeah, I completely agree, which is not always been our strength. As Lewis is saying there, we have been really clinical this season. So clinical that I know not everybody likes statistics and expected goals, but Kudus is outperforming his expected goals by like 500%. So it's very unsustainable, but that's why you buy players like Kudus. That's why the big clubs spend a lot of money on big players that will take their chances, that don't often rely on it. You do get some that need many, like Sadio Mane. I'd always suggest would miss loads of chances, but he creates so many and you get into really good positions to pick them up. So he could afford to lose a few because he'd bank the other one. We're not like that. We don't have that luxury. We're not going to give Kudus or Bowen 5 chances a game. As long as you stick one away, we'll be all right. They're going to get 1 or 2, and on some occasions, it's a case of you're not going to get any, but if you can do something, that would be wonderful. And both of them have shown that they can do something out of nothing. And then we've also got Lucas Paqueta in there. I just hope that this points haul acts as a springboard for the January transfer window. I really do. It opens in a couple of days' time. We've now got a massive opportunity. Obviously, we're away to lose Kudus. There's some confusion as to whether we have him for the Brighton game or not. Some suggesting that that's his last game for West Ham until after African Nations. Some suggesting that he will play the Brighton game, then we'll pack him off on a private jet and off he goes. I'd hope it's the latter. They don't play until, I think it's the 14th or something, so there's plenty of time for them to go and join up with the camp and be ready for the first game. And I know they've done it with Ghana players in the past. They've allowed them to play for the club after the camp is sort of open, as long as they get out there and as long as the club stump up the money and put them on a private jet and get them out there ASAP. So I'm hopeful we'll have Kudus for the Brighton game. So he's going to be a big loss. It's a case of what do we do? Well, the fixtures have been quite kind, I guess, that he only misses a couple of Premier League games in there. We've also got the Bristol City one, we've got the winter break in there as well. But this is where we need to be bold and brave in the January transfer window, and that's not something we've always been under Sullivan and previously David Gold. And it's disappointing. Speaking of those managers, Bilic, Aldice, we've been in these positions before, but David Moyes as well, where we're in and around European football, in and around the top 4 in some of them. And it's like, just go get 1 or 2, just get one player that can get into that starting 11 will make a significant difference. Just go get 2 players that can actually come off the bench will make a significant difference. And I've got a little bit of that about me now. I'm like, please just get Moyes 2 players that he will use. And that could make a huge, huge difference to the second half of our season. Because, listen, as much as I like Thilo Kehrer, clearly Moyes is not going to use him. He's probably still got market value about him. We could probably still get what we paid, 10, 15 million. Get him gone ASAP, and then there you go. There's your 10, 15 million to bring in another player, even if it's a loan deal. I'm not always big fan of them, but look how good Jesse Lingard's was, and it can cause problems that if it works out, then the selling club won't give you him in the summer. You've got a bit of an issue. Deal with it in the summer.
Yeah, I think I always find it interesting when AFCON comes around because I find it so. I find it difficult to justify going out and spending money on a player or spending big money on a player when we know someone else is coming back quickly. Like, it's not like a long-term injury thing. It's like, well, he's going to be out for a month and then he'll be back. And then all of a sudden we're going to have yet more players. And actually, Kudus is in an interesting position where we also have Bowen already exists there in that exact same role. And so the idea of us going and buying someone for that position just stresses me out because I'm like, Jesus Christ, we started this at the beginning of the season. I was like, oh yeah, we could use another right winger because, we've only got Bowen and then we might end up January with our friend of 3, right? But I do think, because I think the pieces are already there. I don't necessarily think I think we're in a beautiful position where we don't necessarily need to go out in a massive way because I think the pieces are there. I mean, it depends what happens with Mkhitaryan injury, but also it would be, and this is where I know I'm in fantasy land. It would be a wonderful thing to see Mubama playing up front at some point. Just Mubama taking up the striking role, you move Burn back out to the right, and all of a sudden you're basically in the same position again. Obviously, the levels have dropped significantly, but you're giving someone the chance that they wouldn't have got otherwise. Now, again, I don't think that's going to happen, but potentially in January, with Antonio out and Danny Ings maybe going out the door, it could happen. However, having said that, I'm not against loans. I think for me the loan makes sense, especially in this scenario where it is sort of like to cover African Cup of Nations and to push us forward. I think you're probably looking towards, Jesse Lingard is the one that makes sense in my mind because he was someone who was at a big club who wasn't getting the game time, who needed to do it, and made perfect sense for the manager. And that's the thing with the loan as well. That's kind of beautiful. I know lots of people are talking about Moyes, leaving now, leaving at the end of the season, whatever. And a lot of the time that conversation comes back to, well, what the hell are we going to do in January? Who are we buying players for? Blah, 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 blah. Well, loans mean that that's not even an issue. You don't even have to begin to think about it, because you could get someone for 6 months who is the perfect person for the manager, who is the perfect person for the formation. That means that when Kudus goes, when whatever else happens, we have someone there who can make that sort of thing work, whatever that may be. It's going to be, I think January for me is more interesting in terms of who's leaving and then what we do in terms of replacements. I can't see there being that much, but we're also in maybe I don't know, maybe I'm talking out my backside with this, but it feels like we're in a unique position amongst teams who are in such a strong position in our own, in that we do have quite a lot of deadwood in the squad that we could that are available. Not to diss the likes of Danny Ings and Tilo Kehrer and people like that, but they would be available. They would certainly be available, and I don't think there's many other not that I can think of. Again, I could be talking out my backside, but I don't think there's many other teams that are in that position with us who are that strong in the league, who are that going strongly, who also can look at their bench and go, well, we should probably sell this guy. We should probably sell this guy. We should probably sell this guy.
There might be more than you think. You just don't support those teams. I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs is one of those. While Lo Celso and that are playing at the minute, I wouldn't be surprised if the right money came in for those types of players. They say, yeah, but let's sell them. Man United as well. I'd imagine half their bench is up for sale. And Donny van de Beek's still there, for God's sake.
That's a good point.
So Man United will definitely have players that they can offload. Jadon Sancho's an issue. And he's someone that someone could go get in January. I know we're maybe being ambitious here. But I don't believe that, by the way, Johnny. That was like a account. Someone's got a lot of bites for that account on Twitter. And fair play to him. I'm all for a little bit of winding up and stuff. But he's David Moyes said that he trained on the day before, so it's Wednesday. Zuma trained on Wednesday, felt his knee. Thursday morning, yesterday morning, they thought he'd be okay. Turns out he wasn't. That doesn't sound like a significant injury to me. I'd be shocked if he's not back for the Brighton game, in all honesty. I think it's just a precaution more than anything. So I wouldn't worry about Kurt Zuma as yet. I think the Antonio one's the more confusing one, because Moyes said 2 weeks. All this rumours was it was his ACL. Moyes said, oh no, he's out for 2 weeks. It's been 5-6 weeks now, and he's not even back in training yet. So I think they've tried to cover up a big injury to Mikel Antonio, and well, people have just forgot, because we're winning. Though you get about him a bit easier because you don't really need him. I think when Kudus goes, it might be, hey, by the way, where's that Antonio? Is he able to play now? Because we could do with him back at this point. Because while we're gaining results, you can be a little bit like, it doesn't matter. In regards to bringing in players, I think there'll be plenty of players available for loan. Someone just mentioned 2 that I like. Let me click on him. Where'd you go? I can't remember. The one about Maatsen. And there you go, Maatsen and Phillips. Now, I think the Maatsen one would be fantastic. I'd love to sign him, like pay for him in the January transfer.
You're big on Maatsen at the moment.
I am. I think he's a fantastic. I think he's a fantastic player. He's homegrown as well, and it's something we do need to look out for. It's something we need to take into consideration. Can play left back. He's been playing left wing when he's been coming on for Chelsea, and he is really good going forward. And that's an area of the squad we have a problem in, that left wing. Now, is he going to be a left winger? Probably not. But if Moyes is going to be the manager, and certainly for the next 6 months he is, could you imagine yesterday when Paqueta went down, bringing on Maatsen would have been perfect for David Moyes. Hang on, I've got a guy that can play left wing and help out defensively. Get him on that pitch now. So I think Maatsen makes sense. Phillips, someone's going to get a really good deal there. I don't think it'll be us, because I think City, I've seen the rumours that City are looking for a £7 million loan fee. some
Jesus.
desperate club will pay it, which is Newcastle. They're desperate; they'll pay it. Well, I
Yeah.
get why they paid a lot of money for him. They're trying to recoup some of the costs before. I'd imagine you could probably buy him in the summer with that 7 million knocked off. A bit like we did
Yeah.
with Souček and whatever. But someone will get Calvin Phillips in January. Pep's as good as said he's leaving. Like I said, someone will get Jadon Sancho as well. It's whoever stumps up the cash and takes a risk. There's a good player in Jadon Sancho for someone to have. He's more of a project though. Don't know if he'd be Jesse Lingard esque, but don't know.
I would be interested. Phillips, I just don't know what's going to happen with Phillips at this point. I know he's been linked to moves abroad. I think that's probably the best thing for him. I think
The,
just to get away and just to do something completely different.
the thing is, though, Charlie, look at Alvarez last night. He was insane. We don't have
Yeah.
someone else in the team that can do that. We
You
need
know,
cover for Alvarez. At least while Kudus goes away, at least there's some resemblance of cover there, which is moving Bowen out and putting someone else up front. But if Alvarez was out for 6 months, we're snookered.
yeah, I mean, if it comes down to who's available, then yeah, you're not wrong. I would be concerned about. I think Calvin Phillips just needs to go somewhere and play full time. I can't see him. I can't see him coming in as a backup choice for anyone really. If I'm being honest, and to be honest,
He wouldn't be
looking at what he did,
backup. He would boot Souček out the team. I think
maybe.
might not
I'm
play
not
every
not not.
game, but you're certainly get play the
You're not wrong.
majority.
You're not wrong. What do you think about what's his name? Conor Gallagher. Isn't he available? It's something me and Jack were talking about last night.
Well, there's always rumours he is, but I think it's more of an FFP thing because he's their captain. You know, you can't just take Pochettino's captain and sell him. Maybe you could, but I think it'd be wild. He's one player that's just Pochettino's changing his Chelsea team week in, week out, doing plenty of subs during the game. But Gallagher is one of those that's starting every game and finishing every game, which is there's not that many. I can't see Gallagher being gettable from Chelsea, but I think Broya will be. I think Maatsen might be. I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Madueke might be as well. I'm not 100% sure, but now when Kunku's back, his game time was already limited, and he prefers Mudryk. So I think Cole Palmer's untouchable. Raheem Sterling's in decent nick as well. So I think Madueke might be someone that could be up for grabs as well. Should a team want to go get him, but I'm not sure that's the type of player we need. I think he's a fantastic player. I loved him when he was at PSV. We'd have liked to have seen him at West Ham, but I don't know. We need another Kudus and Bowen type player.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think the beauty of our system currently is the difference between Paquetá and or our left side in general and the right hand side. You know, you have the right hand side, which is like pure work, hard graft. You know, they just running around non-stop doing crazy things, and then on the left hand side you have that like we're gonna control the ball, we're gonna play it around, we're gonna flick it between each other, and more importantly we're gonna drag everyone away. That was one of the things we lost. You mentioned it at half time, right, when Benrahma came on for Paquetá in the first half. That's the one of the big things we lost, was the ability to just stop the game, drag everyone towards him, because Paquetá's standing there with the ball at his feet. Obviously, we're going to try and tackle him. All of a sudden, you've got 2-3 players coming towards him. They little flick back for Emerson. We saw it for the goal. You know, Paquetá drops deep, he collects the ball, he plays this through ball to Emerson, who all of a sudden is in acres of space, puts in a killer cross. Likewise, one of the things we lose when we don't have a Gerd is you can do that, play it to a Gerd, and then he pings this insane crossfield diag across to the right hand side to Sifao, to Kudus or Bowen, whoever's on the right hand side, and they have tons of space because the entire pitch is shifted across because Paquetá's decided to stand there for a couple of seconds on the ball. It is that thing we lose, and I agree. I think as much as I love that exciting idea of having like essentially Kudus on the left, whoever that would be, and just to be like all guns, let's just go, all guns blazing. I think actually you lose that intricacy of what we have with our left and right side and the way they work together. That works so well for us, and gives, and more importantly, gives the space for Kudus to run with the ball, for Bowen to run with the ball, for Sufal to just make a bombing run forward, pick it up, and then put in a cross that eventually hits the first man, and then he does a long throw, which doesn't really work. And let's ignore that bit. But you know what I mean? I think that synergy really works well, and I think by changing that up, you lose something. And I think we saw that last night with Benrahma, when we were talking about who was going to come on for him. And it's an interesting question in terms of if Paquetá is out. I'm hoping he isn't, because he walked off under his own feet. He was still saying, "I'll go back on until Benrahma's ready. I'll go back on." So, and part of me thinks the fact he played, I'm hoping that it's not too much of a serious thing and
Yeah.
he's not going to miss that many games. But regardless, even if he misses one, I do think it raises an interesting question on who you change, because initially my gut was that it should be Fornals. My gut feeling was that it should be Fornals, and then I started thinking to myself, well, maybe it should be Benrahma because he's closer to what Paquetá is than what Fornals is. I think Fornals is a very different style of player than Paquetá. I don't know. After last night, I'm starting to think maybe it should have been Fornals because you're getting 50%. I don't know. It's such a difficult quandary, because where we have been brilliant in the last couple of games, the games before then, I understand when people were unhappy, when we were still grinding out the wins, but we were still having to sit here and be like, well, we've not done very well. We've been crap. The Burnley game, I think, was either one you or Jack said to me yesterday. I think that's a perfect example, right? I think the last couple of games we've won because we've just been that good. I think the last two games we've Arsenal, Manchester United, we were that good.
Yeah, but also Wolves and Freiburg as well. I know we've had Liverpool in the middle.
Of course,
but like our last 4 wins have all been comfortable, convincing, and deserved, in my opinion. I think tactically for all 4 games they've been spot on. And last night we changed it tactically. That Alvarez thing is not something we've seen before. We've kind of seen it against Brighton with Alvarez dropping in the back 3, but we did it the other way around. That was out of possession. Whereas last night he was dropping into back 3 in possession, and then out of possession he was moving back up into defensive midfield. And I thought it was fantastic. And this is why, we see the benefit of time on the training ground. This is one of the there's many reasons I don't believe that Heitinga's doing tactics for certain games and stuff, but we could get into that. That's a different video. I think the whole thing is just stupid. I think the suggestion is stupid, quite frankly. But even think about it logically, there were suggestions that he was responsible for the Freiburg win. Well, if you think about it, so we got smashed by Fulham 5-0. Then we shut the training ground for 2 days. So Monday, Tuesday, there was no training whatsoever. So we had a training session on Wednesday. We might have had a light session on Thursday morning. Nothing strenuous or tactically, because we've got a game that night. So we had one training session. So apparently, in that one training session, Heitinga took over and changed the way we played completely. He did it. It was just we just got better. The players performed better. We played opposition that suited us more, as we have done the other 3 wins with Wolves, Man United and Arsenal. The way they play allows us to be counter-attacking football. The players are in form, performing really well at the minute as well. So, but for this game, it's the first time Moyes has probably had them on the training ground for 3 days.
Yeah.
Because we just don't have much time on the training pitch to do stuff, to implement ideas and tactics. And last night I thought we saw the benefit of that with the way that Alvarez was playing. And I think bringing on Benrahma was, for Moyes, quite a brave move, actually. I was surprised he brought him on ahead of Papa Fornals, and I think I'm going to take it as an encouraging sign, actually, because we were 1-0 up at this point. And I think I would have expected Moyes to go, whoa, that's just already parked the bus, let's park another bus in front of it. But actually put Benrahma on just to try and maintain a bit of threat on the counter-attack. So we had someone that's direct, got a little bit of pace about him as well. Did it yield anything? Not particularly, but I was almost quietly surprised and pleased that he took on Benrahma ahead of Pablo Fornals actually last night. But happy days.
Yeah, and I think from a man management standpoint, it shows a huge amount of faith in Benrahma. I think for you to be 1-0 up and to have a guy who, in his international career, has had some issues with management, let's say, which is one way of wording getting gripped up by the manager on the touchline. But we move. I feel like it would have been a good thing for Benrahma to come onto the pitch last night to get that call, because again he sat next to Fornals. He sat next to. We could have even switched things up and moved things around and gone to a 3 and then had Bowen and Kudus as a 2 up front together. We've seen us do 4-4-2 even at times this season, although very 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 briefly. For him to get the shout is a big thing for him, and I do think. I think he started shaky. Second half, I think, was probably better, even though that first sort of 10-15 minutes was shaky. Not leaps and bounds better, but certainly there was something more there than there was in the first half. And I think it was a big call for him, because you've got a guy here who whose confidence, let's be real, is probably absolutely destroyed right now. AFCON's here, and he's just in the international break before that, he's had full on fight with the manager. You know, he's not getting much game time, and when it does, it's not working out. You know, even when we had the sickness thing, you know, 4 hours is playing, all of this other sort of stuff. So it was a big call for him to go on. It was a big call for him to go on, and I think, you know, it got all the way to the point where he's taking a penalty. Now that didn't work out. Raya saves it or whatever, but I think that's a good thing for Benrahma's confidence, because I think, as much as, for me, I look at Benrahma as a surplus to requirements type guy, although I don't think I don't think we necessarily can describe it as surplus to requirements, but he's someone who would be available if someone was interested for the right price, kind of thing. And I think to give him the confidence like that, I think is a big boost, personally.
I think we're just outgrowing him, Charlie. I don't think it's a big deal. We bought him when we identified him. We were in a relegation battle. We looked at the Championship, one of the best players in Championship at the time. We needed a left winger. He wasn't Moyes' first choice. Moyes' first choice was Eze. We couldn't get Eze because we needed to sell Diangana, the left winger, to buy a left winger. So we had to sell Diangana in order to raise the funds. Didn't do it in time. Palace snatched up Eze. So we went and got what feels like the board's choice inside Benrahma. But we were a relegation battling side at the time. So it was a good signing to make. It was a good signing to bring in. But we're now a side pushing for European football, and Benrahma's not good enough for a side pushing for European football. He's good enough for a side in the bottom half of the Premier League, but that's not us anymore. We've just outgrown him, and that's going to happen. That is what happens. You know, Man City didn't get to where they are by buying superstars overnight. They had to go through a process of buying in players that would allow them to eventually become title winners, and those players become surplus to requirements, the likes of James Milner, etc., where actually you don't need them. You bring them in, you move up a level. Newcastle are kind of doing that in a minute. Dan Burn won't be playing for Newcastle in 4 years' time, but he was what they needed at the time. He's got them to where they need to go, and they'll move him on. It's like when they bought Chris Wood. I mean, part of it was to kick Burnley into the Championship, and it sort of worked, but they only needed him for a short period of time. It worked. He went there, did his job. They didn't need him anymore. They offloaded him, and that's where we are with Said Benrahma. The only thing is, I'd argue that despite his heroics last season, with what we are guilty of is hanging on to players for too long, so that A, their value depreciates so much, B, they get incredibly unhappy, and C, we end up having a squad role, which is valuable. You only have 25 of them. We have a squad place allocated to someone that's not really an option anymore. And so perhaps we should have been a bit wiser and moved on Benrahma and others sooner when they were worth a bit more. But it is what it is. I think we've just outgrown Benrahma, and it's not a big deal whatsoever. I think he's done well here. We've got what we need out of him. He's got what he needs out of West Ham. He needs to go somewhere else, and he'll be a good player. If he gets the right move to the right club, he'll go on and be a first-team player. He might get his flair back. He might start providing goals and assists, and he might grow as a player. We're just not that club anymore. We're too good for Said Benrahma.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Anything else you want to say before we end
it? I've got to go do player ratings now, so...
Of course, yes, still available on the Patreon, patreon.com/chat, link in the description below for all that sort of good stuff. Again, Geo, it's been another weird. We've got over 500 people watching this at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's kind of crazy. Yes, we need to come up with some sort of name for the series that we're doing or something. I don't know. The debrief the day after. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, what a result! What an insane result at the end of the day. I mean, taking on Arsenal and going, no, we're just gonna fight you until the end of this, and you know, doing it to Plum is something very, very special indeed. And I'm glad that coming after it, you know, it was just pure adulation from every corner. I mean, West Ham as a fan base can be a little bit splintered, especially at the moment. I saw nothing but pure and utter adulation last night about how insane that was as a game and how insane that was as a result. And I'm really happy. Long may that vibe continue into the new year, which I hope you all enjoy, whatever you end up doing. I hope you have a wonderful time. And then, yeah, we've got a bunch of videos between now and the Brighton game. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video. Bell notifications so you don't miss out on future videos, and yeah, we will see you for the day after the Brighton game, I guess.
Yeah, later on. I'm in Scotland for the Brighton game. I'll be home the day after. Don't know what time, but we'll
We'll figure it out. We'll figure
be
it out.
live at some point.
Geo has a life. Okay, he has a future wife. Is what he
Where's
has.
that in Maryland?
We'll be back. We'll be back then. Anyway, cheers everyone. Subscribe. Speak to you later. Bye everyone. See ya.